she belly matched me. And at the time, she did not tell me. I'm glad she didn't. This is where I want to talk about. It's so important to find a provider that meets, like you jive with, because she knows if she tells me something, I'm going to get discouraged. And I know a lot of mamas are like that. If she tells me something that's not encouraging as far as baby coming, I'm going to stall out. So she knew this.
Hi, I'm Rachel, owner of the NaturalBirth site, certified birth doula, childbirth educator, and midwife's assistant.
And I'm Tiffany Munez, certified birth doula, lactation counselor, and midwife assistant.
Here, you'll learn all about different aspects of pregnancy, birth, and postpartum.
Remember, none of this information should take the place of your care provider and is not medical advice.
Birth is not a medical emergency.
Thanks for listening.
Hey, listeners, welcome to the Natural Birth Talk. I'm your host, Rachel.
And I'm Tiffany.
Today, we are here with Amy Harris, who has been on our show a couple times in the past, and she is going to share her most recent birth story. If y'all don't remember, her last story was an accidental unassisted home birth. So the home birth was planned, the unassisted part was not, and that made for a great story. And this time, she's going to talk to us about her most recent birth, where the midwife did make it. But before we get started and all of that, we're going to let Amy introduce herself.
I'm Amy, and I'm so honored to be back on the podcast with Rachel and Tiffany. I have 4 children. The last 3 were all home births. So I love home birth. I love natural birth, just sharing all about it, encouraging mamas to trust their bodies. So I talk a lot about that on my other platforms, but I had my most recent baby 9 months ago, and I'm excited to talk about my birth story today.
Yay! We are so excited. Before we get started on your birth story, though, why don't you share a little bit about your YouTube channel? Because I know if we wait till the end, I'm gonna forget to ask you.
Right. Yes, I do have a YouTube channel. I've shared my 3 births on there, but I also share just motherhood content, homesteading. We have a small farm, gardening, cows, all the animals. We have lots of animals here. So that's always
I'm jealous.
It's amazing. My kids are just outside all the time. So it's such a blessing. They're always entertained, but I share that on my YouTube channel. But I also, anytime I'm pregnant, my channel becomes like all about pregnancy and helping mamas learn to prepare for pregnancy and if they're interested in natural birth. So I share that on my YouTube channel and just motherhood life in general and homesteading.
Yeah. And your YouTube channel is?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's just Amy Harris, AMMIE Harris.
Perfect. We'll put that link in the description too, so you guys can check her out because I love her channel. Tiffany, I don't know if you've seen it, but I think you would like it too.
I just found it, and now I'm so interested.
Thank you.
So yeah, I watch you and you give me just so many good ideas. You know, we don't have like the space for a homestead or anything, nor do I know if I have the energy at this point in the life.
Seriously.
But I just watch you and you with your kiddos, and you guys are just so sweet. I'm like,
oh, thank
you. Sometimes my life goals are based around what you're talking about on your channel.
Well, thank you. That's so sweet.
Okay. So let's jump in. Let's get started. Your 4th birth.
Okay.
3rd home birth.
Yes. So, 3rd home birth, 1st birth, I'll just quickly say that it was a hospital birth, and it led me to the natural birth side of things. I can't remember if we talked about that one. I think I talked about.
We shared some
hospital versus home birth a little bit.
Yes. So anyway, that's what we did on our first episode.
I think so. Then that just led me into everything to research home birth. So my last 3 babies were all born at home, beautifully blessed to have had that happen, and just so thankful that the Lord met us in that dream of ours to have our babies at home. So my 2nd and 3rd birth, the 2nd birth midwife was here for about 20 minutes. 3rd birth, as Rachel already mentioned, she did not make it. She came, left. So this birth, my husband just the whole time was just, what if she doesn't make it? Which he'd already done it. So we had prepared for it. We had prepared some things in case we didn't have the midwife here because she is 2 hours away. So that was all.
Oh, wow.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. We're right at her like radius to travel, and she's wonderful. So I love her and I want to keep having her, but we're in more of a rural area. We don't have a lot of midwives in this area. So she was just the best fit for us. And I love her too. I was not going to switch midwives after she's had 3, had 2 babies with us. So anyway, the labor started very similar to my 3rd one, the one where the midwife didn't make it. And the whole day. So I had a contraction around midnight. I guess it was the day before he was born, which was very similar to that third one. And everything was like very lined up to that previous one. I was having contractions in the night. I was thinking that I was probably going to have baby the next morning or that next evening. But it was just so similar to the previous birth. And I'm trying to remember. I didn't actually tell my husband this time because it was so, I had contractions for probably 14 hours, like very, very mild. When I say contractions, these were like so spaced out. They were, I could just do anything through them. They were those early labor contractions. So I didn't even tell him because I didn't want him to start replaying the exact lineup of the last birth because I knew he would build up in his head of the midwife's not going to make it. The midwife's not going to make it. And I totally would have been happy to have an unassisted birth again if like he was okay with that. But no, that's something he does feel more comfortable when she's there. So I was totally okay with going with that for his comfort and just like feeling safe. So anyways, I had the contractions from about midnight. This was Sunday night. He was born on a Monday. Sunday night, all through the night, on and off, every hour or so, I kind of wake up. One of my kids woke up that night. I was up there with them, which doesn't happen often. We went to milk the cow, and I was like, okay, if I'm still having contractions, I'm going to tell him then. At that point, we were milking together. We had just had the cow, and it was new to us. So at milking, I was like, okay, I'm going to have some contractions. I can tell him about the contractions. We can make a decision from there. Everything stopped. This was at like 5 in the morning. Everything stopped. I went out there, nothing. It was kind
Doesn't that happen, Tiffany? It's like keeps you up all night long.
Yes.
Yep. And it stops when it's time to be awake.
Yep. My second birth, that was similar too, but I had her that morning. But then that third birth, it was all night, stopped. First thing in the morning. The same thing with this fourth birth. So I still hadn't told him about contractions. So he headed to work. He still has no idea. I've had these very subtle contractions. And now this one day it stopped. My last one was like 5:30 and he was at work and I just carried on with the morning with the kids at 12:30 finally. So like 7 hours later, we had done our day. I'd spent time with the kids, finally was eating lunch. I guess things had kind of calmed back down for the day and getting kids ready for their nap. And I finally had another contraction. I was like, okay, we're picking up again. Something's going to happen. So I remember washing the dishes and I put on just pulled up YouTube to just watch something while I was getting the dishes done. And the mile circuit video popped up, just recommended to me. And I was like, oh, this is like, I'd done it before. I knew about it, but I had not even thought about doing it. And I was like, okay, God must be telling me because it wasn't a channel that I normally watch. It was just popped up on my feed. So I was like, okay, this might be something I need to do. So I rewatched the video, refreshed my memory on it. Cause I think I had done it in, I don't remember, one of my births before. So I was familiar with it, but I needed to refresh what to do. I did the mile circuit from that was probably around a little after noon till about between 2 and 3. I put the kids down, did the mile circuit, thinking things were going to pick up, which they sort of did. They sort of picked things up. It sort of opened the pelvis, let baby drop. Well, I don't know if he dropped a lot, but I felt things were picking up. So it finally texted my husband that afternoon to get him information if he needed to come home or not. He was like, "Do I need to come home?" I was like, "No, I think we still got a little while." So needless to say, things had picked up. Let me check my notes because things get kind of fuzzy from here.
Did your husband actually stay at work? Because did he?
Yes.
I did that with my last one. And my husband's like, I want to come home. And I'm like, no, you're fine. And then like an hour later, I end up texting him like, hurry. Oh, no.
He was
like,
gonna wait.
I probably should have let him come home. I was just curious. Like sometimes they get anxious and they don't want to stay at work,
He was hoping to come home, but by this point, I think it was like 2:00 and he was going to be home by probably 3 or 4 anyway. So it wasn't like super late. He was getting home that day. So anyways, I think I wrote down, I mopped the floors. You start like prepping the house and like getting dinner cooked to get everything ready. Cause your mind starts thinking about labor, and then cooked dinner, did all that. I think we were outside working in the garden. I was hanging cucumber trellises and I remember having a contraction. My husband was like, "Are you having one?" I was like, "Yeah, I need to go inside." So at that point, things picked up. He got the kids ready for bed. It was so textbook to my last birth. Right when the kids were getting ready for bed, things picked up just like the last one. And I had wanted my kids at the birth, but I think my kids were 5 and under. Then they're 5 and under. So I think my body just knew I needed them to be asleep. My body just felt safer. I have dreamed to have my kids at my birth, but it hasn't happened yet. So I think my body's just not ready.
feel like, yeah, there's a lot of moms who also feel that way,
Yeah.
or that happens to them. Like their body just knows, like,
Exactly.
okay, I'm going to need like peace and quiet for just a little bit so my body can feel like 100% safe and okay. And then,
Exactly. Yeah.
really, yeah.
And I thought this time they might make it or we might wake them up, but I just needed that calmness. And, so maybe in the future, if I have another baby, maybe that can be that one. But they did not make this one. So anyways, I kind of just rested in my room while he did all that. I told the midwife to come at 7:00. So I knew she wouldn't be here till 9. And that's kind of how the last one went. I called her here. She checked me that one and I was only 2 centimeters. So we sent her home. There was going to be some storms and we didn't want her out on the road. So we sent her home that time. And then the baby came. So when she got here this time, I was like, I'm not sending you home. I guess you'll just sleep on my couch if nothing progresses. And I'm one that I don't like to be watched to labor. I like to be alone just with my husband. I don't mind if people, sometimes knowing people are here will kind of mess with my head too, even in my house in a different room. So I remember thinking, I hope I didn't call her too early because I feel like if she's here too long, I'm going to like in my head stall out. But anyway, she got here. She did not check me. I don't really like to have cervical checks if not necessary. It's interventions that don't have to be introduced into labor. So there wasn't a need to, but she did belly map me and see kind of where baby was. I have a video on belly mapping. I absolutely love it. I think it's so neat learning how to feel where your baby is. And she's taught me a lot about feeling baby's position through the belly and not having to be invasive in other ways. So anyways, she belly mapped me. And at the time she did not tell me. I'm glad she didn't. This is where I want to talk about. It's so important to find a provider that meets like you jive with, because she knows if she tells me something, I'm going to get discouraged. And I know a lot of mamas are like that. If she tells me something that's not encouraging as far as baby coming, I'm going to stall out. So she knew this, but later after the baby was here, she told me the baby was still very high up. He had not even dropped into the pelvis, but she didn't tell me that. She just suggested that we try the peanut ball. So this was I had a peanut ball in my first birth, hospital birth, and I had not had another one till this birth. She had it with her. I said, okay, I've done this before. We'll try it out. And my goal was to do three contractions. Maybe it was 6. It was a certain number she told me for about 30 minutes on the left, then switch to the right. That was the plan. And at this point, I was talking to her. I was not in any sort of distress. I was having contractions it was still probably 10 minutes apart. They were still pretty spaced out and they were still manageable. I could feel them picking up, but very manageable. So she put me on the peanut ball. I did have a doula at this birth. This is one of my really good friends. So I just loved having her here. She sat in the room with me, played some music. It was not awkward at all to have her in here because she's like one of my best friends. And the midwife went out in the living room. I did the peanut ball contractions and immediately things pick up. And the peanut ball basically, I mean, y'all know, but it has you in a laid position with your pelvis open, kind of like a deep squat. So I did squats all through pregnancy, like spinning babies routine, getting the pelvis open, but doing the peanut ball really just opened that pelvis up in a resting position. So he was
the way it makes you squat, it like tilts your pelvis kind of forward a little bit, which gives that baby that perfect space to drop down in.
So I did I don't remember which side, but I did one of the sides and felt things picking up. I was starting to moan through contractions very slightly, not those deep, like J moans yet, but like they're really like subtle, just like when your body starts, it's just natural. It's happened at all my births. Some women will kind of moan through, some won't, but I always have. Just kind of instinctively happens. And I remember I needed to flip to the next side, but I was going to use the restroom first. So I walked out. My doula walked with me. My husband was in there chatting with the midwives, just trying to keep it. So I went to the restroom and told her that I finished that side. I was ready to flip to the next, but things felt like they were picking up. And she was like, that's wonderful that it's working. She didn't say maybe we'll have a baby, but I remember she told me later she was thinking it because she could tell by my face and the way I was talking, things were picking up. So I said, but I don't know if I want to do that other side just yet. She was like, well, that's fine. Let's just walk around the house, just get your hips moving and just walk around. So funny story here. My husband was getting a bowl of ice cream. It's like 9:45 now. We had some homemade ice cream. It was summertime. So we make homemade ice cream from our fresh milk and our eggs. So that's like one of his favorite things. So he was getting a bowl of homemade ice cream and I was talking about what he was doing and he's dipping the ice cream. And I'm like, I think things are picking up. And he was like, okay, great. I'm going to eat this ice cream and I'll come in there if you need me.
I love it. He's like so chill because the midwife's here.
The midwife's there, right?
Right? He's like, oh, we're good. I'm not going to have to catch this baby this time.
Exactly. Just
which is, yeah, and you know what? You want to make sure that not only mom jives with the midwife, but dad jives with the midwife too, and doula.
Exactly. So he's dipping the ice cream, and I'm kind of across the room from him in the kitchen, and all of a sudden I'm like one of those really big contractions. The first really big one came on, and I was like, come here, really fast. And he's like, what's wrong? Because I'm just having this normal conversation with him. And all of a sudden my whole demeanor changes. It was that first like really strong, really, really strong contraction that I don't like, y'all know what I'm talking about. The really big one that just hits you. Yeah. He comes over and I lean on him and like start swaying. And I was like, okay, I think things are picking up. So go eat your ice cream and come back in the room with me and just be with me. So you're
so sweet. You're like, just get your ice cream. Just hurry up.
You can finish your ice cream.
You're going to have to wait.
Throw the ice cream away. Yeah, right.
I didn't think it was picking up that quick. So he heads back across the kitchen to go eat the ice cream. And he hadn't made it 10 feet. And I was like, no, come back. Another one had already come. And sometimes, like in some of my births, I feel like I need my husband right there. And then like the last birth, he was catching the baby. He wasn't even really with me. He was running around the house.
Right.
So it's crazy how different labors you crave and you need. Your body knows what you need or who you need there at different at each birth. So needless to say, his ice cream sat and melted, and he came back. He came with me to the room, back to my bedroom. The doula was back in here. They helped me get on I don't know why I thought I needed to get on the peanut ball the other side, because things had obviously picked up.
Because you had it in your head and you're like, okay, I need to check off my next thing on my list.
Right. That was totally it. I was like, I got to do this other side now. That was my goal. So they helped me get back on the peanut ball, and it was unbearable. I could not lay there. I made it through one contraction just because I was kind of stuck and I wanted my body to relax, but I was tensing up, and you don't want to tense up in contractions because it makes it more painful. So he helped me I made it through that contraction very uncomfortably. He and the doula helped me get up. And then as I'm leaning up, I hear the pop in the birth canal, water breaks, and things were on after this. So the doula called, the midwife she knew things were picking up. She could hear my tones change, and she knew baby was coming soon. And at this point, it was probably 10. She got there at 9. It's now like 10:20.
Okay, I was going to ask.
It was really like I was in early labor when she got here. Still, we don't know how far along, but baby had not descended. So from 9 to 10:20ish, just a little over an hour, things just drastically picked up, and I was pretty far into active labor.
Hey everyone, Rachel Manns here, and today I have something I'm thrilled to share with you guys. Imagine having a treasure trove of informative, entertaining, and empowering video content about the journey to parenthood right at your fingertips. That's exactly what you get with Informed Pregnancy Plus. For less than 25 cents a day, that's a quarter, guys, you'll gain access to a vast subscription library filled with documentary films, web series, mind and body fitness programs, workshops, and courses covering fertility to parenting and everything in between. Designed for new and expectant parents, as well as pregnancy and birth professionals, Informed Pregnancy Plus is like having a trusted BFF and doctor in one, guiding you through every step of the path to and through parenthood. A few of just my favorite titles are obviously The Business of Being Born, Empowered Mama, Belly Dance for Birth, how fun is that? Ease into Sleep, the Afterbirth Plan, and the Core Connection, an extremely well-presented and informative workshop teaching you about your core and pelvic floor and how to keep them healthy. And here's the best part. For a limited time, you can gain full access absolutely free. Just visit informedpregnancy.tv to sign up. Sign up for Informed Pregnancy Plus right now. I'm not kidding, guys. It's really going to help you out. It's my prescription for your informed and empowered parenting journey, all from the comfort of your home. Visit informedpregnancy.tv. That's informedpregnancy.tv, and the link will be in the description below. Now back to the show. Well, and this being your fourth baby, like the more babies you have, I feel like it's more common for baby to start higher but
Yeah.
things happen so quickly still because once baby
Right.
does descend, they're like, oh, body's done this before. I've got all this space.
I
Other
know
babies
what
have
to do.
like paved the way. So they
Yeah.
just come right on out.
Yes.
Right.
So I didn't mention I wanted a water birth, and I've wanted a water birth for all my home births. We've had a pool. My first home birth, we had the pool here. It was in the middle of filling up, but it didn't get filled in time. The last one was unassisted. We didn't even worry with the pool. This one, we had the pool. It wasn't filled though. So when I got up in the water birth, I was like, all right, y'all get the pool filled. The hose was here. So they started filling it with hot water. My husband was thinking, are you sure we need to fill this pool? I was like, we need to fill the pool. So
Fill the pool.
fill the pool now. Because I've just wanted a water birth so badly. It's just, I feel like it's very comfortable. I don't know if either of y'all have ever had a water birth, but
I tried.
didn't make it. Yeah.
I say 1.5 because it didn't get filled with my third.
Yeah. Every time I would get in the water, my labor would like slow way down.
Yeah. And you had one of those long on and off,
very long on
tiring
and off,
labors.
And that may be why I haven't had a water birth yet. My body knows I don't need that. But anyways, they started filling the pool. They were doing hot first. And they're like, well, most of the time the hot water will run out and then we have to do cold water. So I don't remember the whole reasoning because I was out of it at this point. But anyway, they filled the hot water. And at this point, my husband is with me. And like the whole time, I just like danced with him. It was like the most special, like it felt like we were in the room by ourselves. But the midwives were here and my doula was here. But I just swayed and leaned on him. And his just presence was so comforting through contractions. And anyway, so he probably wasn't feeling this sweet moment because he was later he told me, I was like, I really loved, like after the birth, I was like, I just loved you being there for me. Thank you. And he was like, well, of course. And I was like, it was just so special. And he was like, well, I'll tell you, babe, I was really just trying to get that pool filled up. That's all he was speaking of. He was trying to go get 5-gallon buckets and bring it from the outside. But anyway, that was probably from 10:20 till about 10:45. And the pool was filled at this point, but it was too hot. They didn't realize that our hot water was going to last, I guess, that long.
So long.
They assumed it would run out and the water would be the perfect temperature and I can just get in. But I remember looking at the pool in like the haze of the contractions and breathing through them and dancing with my husband. And I was like, the pool's filled. Can I get in? And they were like, I probably didn't say it that calmly though.
Right.
They were like, all I remember them saying is it's too hot. And then I go in and out of contractions, just in that zone on my husband. And I hear him calling out, it's 118. And in my head,
that's way too hot.
That's way hot.
Exactly. I'm thinking, are they talking about my temperature? Because I'm just like in and out of contraction. I don't know why I happened to think that. And then I was like, no, they're talking about the water. So they were like, at this point, I started feeling really pushy. And I was still standing beside my bed, and the midwife was telling me that the water is probably not going to cool off in time, but I've done this before without water. I can do it again. We can crawl onto the bed. She didn't want me standing to birth. If it happened, it happened. But by choice, she wanted to make sure the babies are slippery and everything. Mm-hmm. So she would like me to either get on hands and knees or on the bed. And I just felt this disappointment of the water. And anyway, so I moved to the bed very slowly, carefully. At this point, I know he was in the birth canal because it was difficult to walk 10 feet to crawl into the bed. Right. So I got onto hands and knees. By the way, they told me later the water got to 102. So it was so close. I think it had to be 100, around 100. It got to
we do 98 to 102 in the practice I work with.
Well,
gosh,
it was
darn
102. And at that point I was pushy. So they really didn't even know if I could climb in. So we just disregarded the pool, but it was so close. We were like minutes. If it had been like 5 minutes more, I probably could have gotten in and pushed him out in the birth pool. But anyways, I got on the bed in hands and knees, and hands and knees has been like my position in the hospital. Of course, they had me on my back, and that was a whole different story. But my second and third birth were hands and knees. It was just the position my body just instinctively went into, and our bodies know what position to birth in if we trust that and just flow with it and don't try to force anything. So I crawled under the bed, and instantly this position felt off. And I was thinking, this is how I've done it the last two. Why is this off? So I tried like breathing, and like once in one of my births, I rested my head on my husband's shoulder, and he kind of got in front of me, and I just leaned over him on the bed. In one of the births, he was catching, so I just held myself up with my own weight. In this birth, none of that felt comfortable. And I was like in this pushing phase. And I remember just like fighting the contractions. I was like pulling, my midwife she was doing some counter pressure to help with tearing and stuff and doing warm compress. And I remember just pulling away from her, and I was fighting, like it was a mentally difficult pushing phase. I had not experienced this before. And baby, I was feeling the fetal ejection reflex where your body pushes baby out. I wasn't actively pushing him out. And I've talked about that before. It's amazing how our body just will push baby out. We don't have to actively push. And I've felt my hospital birth, I did not know this, and I'm trying to push baby out, and it was very, very not working. Took forever because I wasn't flowing with my body. But the last two, second and third, fetal ejection was just, baby just came. And this one was just, something was off. So come to find out, it just wasn't the position I needed to be in. Yeah. My body just it wasn't comfortable. And I remember I didn't really know where to go. I was kind of fighting it. I was not really, it was a very big mental struggle. And I remember just like praying and asking God, please help this baby get out. I've never said, please help this baby get out before. It's usually just so calm. But this one, there was like a moment of panic, and he met
probably because you were like so focused on getting in that tub, and then it just like changed on you, and you just needed God to come and like redirect you.
So he did. And he instantly, like when I said that out loud, and like in my head, I'm praying, my midwife leaned over, like came around to my head and was like, Amy, your baby is just minutes from being here. I need you to calm down. Don't pull away, and let's just breathe through this. And like this peace came across the whole room. My husband kissed me on the cheek, and it was just such a beautiful moment. And I will always remember the Lord meeting me in that moment through speaking through my midwife and my husband. So it was so beautiful. And then probably within a minute, remember, I'm not comfortable in this hands and knees position, but I'm not sure which way to go. So the pushing phase was only, let me go ahead and add, like 10 minutes. So we're probably 8 minutes in of me like fighting it. And like it was a really quick pushing phase, but it felt like forever in the moment, when you're in the moment. So anyways, right before he came out, I just let out this huge, like primal scream, pushed my body from hands and knees into vertical. I did like a runner's lunge. It was just instinct. Your body just like, I didn't think, okay, let me get into a runner's lunge. Let me try to, like, my body just pushed me into that. And it's so amazing to look back and see how our bodies will just guide us when we just lean into it. And I needed that calmness of my midwife and that prayer to kind of reset my mind and focus and trust my body to move into that position. So as soon as I moved up, and I think my arm is on my husband, I can't remember, I have to go back and look at the footage, but anyway, I'm in a runner's lunge. All of a sudden his head is born, and midwife kind of grabs him to support. And she's like, do you want to catch your baby? Because I've never caught one of my babies. She's caught one. My husband has caught one. And it was my dream to catch this one in the birth pool, but that wasn't happening. So I just reached down, his head was out. And then as soon as I hit, in my past births, babies have head-borne, shoulders rotate. This baby did not. His head was out. It may have, but it was really quick. His head was out. I grabbed, and he was out. Like it was just one big flow, and he was out. I pulled into my chest. It was beautiful, and just tears flooded. My husband was just such a relief. As soon as baby's out, you just feel that relief, and you're just in overjoyed, overwhelmed that it's over. Yeah. But you have this sweet blessing. And instantly all the pain is gone, and everything you went through just disappears.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's so amazing to me. And I tell my first time mamas specifically, or moms who haven't had a natural birth before, like who have had an epidural, I'm like, I promise you, as soon as your baby is on your chest, you're not going to care about any of this.
You forget everything.
Yeah.
Everything. So we did not know the gender. I've said he, so obviously I know he's a boy. But anyway, my son really, really wanted a brother. And my last birth, when we had him announce the gender of his sister, and he announced that she was a girl, and was like, well, I really wanted a brother. It was so sweet. But this time he'd been praying for a brother, and we did wake him up. Like baby's laying on my chest. We get him dried off and just kind of cuddling. Within about 3 minutes, they brought my son down to announce the gender. It was the sweetest moment. We turned him over, and it's a boy, and like tears flooded. My husband had wanted a boy really badly, prayed for a boy, it was the sweetest moment when we announced his gender. So it was
Aw.
so sweet that my son got to announce it.
That's
It
adorable.
was
Yeah.
precious. So then the whole family comes down. I just love home births that your family can just join you and you just sit in the
Yes.
bed together. We woke the other kids up for like 15 minutes just to meet the baby and meet their little brother. It was just a miracle. It's always a miracle.
I love that.
It's such a sweet story.
That is amazing. So we only have a couple minutes left.
Oh, yeah.
You did amazing telling that story. You're so eloquent. You're such a good storyteller, which is why I think, people just get sucked into your channel.
Thank you.
So, what was I just going to say? I love how you touched on finding a provider that jives with you and that knows you well, because it sounds like your midwife knew exactly what you needed. She knew not to tell you baby was high. She knew when to give you like a little bit of tough love.
Yes.
And say like, hey, we just got to breathe. So important. And then that she was able to help distract dad too.
Yes.
So, I mean, I feel like maybe we could do a whole podcast episode just on that of like,
Seriously,
the importance of finding a provider that jives with mom and dad. Because honestly, and I say even as a doula, half the time I have to calm dad down. It's not just mom that I'm calming down. It's dad too, right?
Right.
And your midwife knew exactly how to do that. So that's a really good lesson in like making sure, if you have options. There are some places where you don't really have options,
Right.
But if you have the option, making sure you find someone who fits with you.
With my hospital birth, we did have a doula, and she was so wonderful at helping it was a different doula. I didn't even know the people that I have at my birth team now. She was wonderful at keeping my husband calm. So that was our first birth, and it was a hospital birth, but our doula was amazing at that one too.
That's awesome. And just for the audience, you did not have an epidural with your hospital birth either. That was also a natural birth in that sense.
Yeah.
But
it was just really long, and it could have interventions that didn't have to happen, but it was my first, and I just didn't know.
Right.
A lot back then.
Well, I will link that episode. I'll link your other episodes in the description below. And then I really want to talk about, we're going to have to do this in another episode, Amy, but Tiffany and I are super excited to have you back and talk about relactation after your breast explants.
Yes.
With this last baby. So
that's so cool.
That's something we're going to have to schedule. So listeners, be on the lookout for that episode, because you can relactate for multiple reasons. In Amy's case, she stopped to have her implants explanted, taken out, and then relactated. But there's so many reasons a woman might want to relactate. Yes. So, and we've never touched on that before.
Yes. No. I've heard of like grandmothers relactating which is kind of like strange, but like if a mother passes away, grandmothers can. This is totally unrelated, but I've heard of that too.
Yeah. I've seen that, especially in like Eastern, like Asian type cultures. I've seen that being like more of a popular thing or, common thing. So super excited to talk about all of that. Do we have anything else before we finish up that you guys want to add?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
All right, listeners, thanks for listening today, and we will talk to you guys in the next episode. Make sure you check those links below. Bye.
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 Hi, Rachel Manns again. If you want to learn more, please subscribe to and rate this podcast, and head over to thenaturalbirthsite.com to check out our online natural birth education course, birth story blog, YouTube channel, and more.